Good morning, folks. This is Deb Delapiana, and this is your short take. I just want to spend a couple of minutes here talking about a couple of things. Let's start with Mike Pence, who, has often been painted as a hero of J6. Mike Pence recently said that he had no intention of testifying to the J6 committee because they weren't, quote, entitled to his testimony. Well, some of us beg to differ with that assessment. But one thing I think Mike Pence needs to understand is that the American people are entitled to his testimony. And one of the things that we'd most like to understand is why he thought it would be necessary to call out the military to protect people from this crowd. Because Donald Trump certainly didn't, but Mike Pence was sufficiently frightened. There were gallows built outside to hang him. What Mike Pence has done for political expediency, however, is decide to circle the wagons so as not to disenfranchise too many of Donald Trump's surviving supporters. Because I believe that Mike Pence is considering a run for the presidency. And I believe that he is actually very closely aligned to Donald Trump's ideology. And I maintain that if Mike Pence had thought they could get away with that little scheme, he would have done exactly what Donald Trump wanted him to do. That's just my opinion. But I'm kind of wondering why Mike Pence would even inquire of a judge whether or not what Donald Trump wanted him to do was legal. So that's just where I am right now, which brings us to the discussion of Merrick Garland and all of the apoplectic people out there on social media insisting that his appointment of Jack Smith as the special prosecutor means he's trying to run out the statute of limitations so that he can let Donald Trump off scot-free. You know what? The difference between a person who resides within the law and a person who doesn't is often unrecognizable in this country because Americans have become so used to the politics of everything that they can't recognize this. The GOP is having a field day portraying Merrick Garland's investigation into Donald Trump as being a partisan effort. And the appointment of a special prosecutor is not anything new. We had one with Watergate. And the reason we're doing this is because Merrick Garland wants to ally any of those arguments, try to put them to bed by appointing somebody who's independent. Jack Smith is an independent, registered independent. He will operate within the constraints of the Justice Department, but he has a longer leash to pursue this case. And he has stated that it will not slow the case down. This decision-making on what gets prosecuted here, whether Trump gets prosecuted here, will ultimately rest with Merrick Garland, not with Mr. Smith. And all things go through Garland. He is responsible to Garland. If you think that Merrick Garland was ever going to be like the William Barr of the Democrats, insinuating himself in the political realm of the Biden administration like Barr did, that was never going to be the case. That's not Merrick Garland. William Barr may have indeed shown some cojones at the end. He may have broken from Trump by talking to the J6 committee, but he was already out of office by then. Okay? During Donald Trump's reign, William Barr was one of his biggest enablers, and he used the DOJ politically. The GOP will never tell you that, though, because they're counting on you forgetting things like his involvement in insinuating himself in the whole Roger Stone thing. None of that is going on right now. What we have is an attorney general who is intent on operating above board and letting this case go where the evidence lies. The Mar-a-Lago raid was over the summer. This is not a lengthy period of time for this kind of an investigation. They not only have to, they already know he took documents he should never have taken, but they have to establish motive. They've been talking about whether or not Trump ever intended to sell this to a foreign government. They've determined that he hasn't, that it's all ego-driven. That doesn't mean he doesn't get charged, okay? The documents are the documents are the documents. Now, my suggestion is let this play out. The investigation into what Trump did in Georgia has taken several years. The Trump investigation in New York, the Letitia James investigation, took 3 years. And this happens because the other side that's being investigated also uses the legal system to stymie the investigation, as Trump did with his request for a special master. This has thrown a monkey wrench into all of this. It takes time in the courts for suit and countersuit, strike and counterstrike. And this is the way the American legal system works. Both sides have access to that system and use it. You understand what I'm saying here? What we need to do is, yes, without a doubt, continue to watch what the DOJ is doing and make sure they're doing their job. But we have a job to do here too. And the job we have to do here is make sure that we are ready for 2024. I can't impress this upon people enough. Do you seriously think that the Republicans are sitting back because they have a slim lead in the House thinking that they're in control? They do. And they're looking forward to 2024. And we better be too. And there's people out there enabling the bullshit. How Ron DeSantis can lead a Republican Reagan recovery in 2024. He's a fascist, my friends. They are not done here yet. Stop thinking that this goes back to being politics as usual. It isn't. It isn't. And if the special prosecutor wasn't a worry for Trump, he wouldn't be out there spewing the fear that he's spewing. He is nervous. Marjorie Taylor Greene wouldn't be telling the Republicans they can't appropriate any money for this guy. Mike Pence wouldn't be calling his appointment, quote, very disturbing. Mike Pence is a fascist. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a fascist. The Republican Party is full of seditionists still sitting in public office. And yes, we spurned a lot of their people. We did. We defied the odds during the midterms, but they are still out there. Some of them did indeed get elected. We are not done here yet. Focus, people, focus. We have a task at hand. And it is finally to participate in government. And by the way, just a word to the wise. The GOP spent the day after winning the majority hanging out with Kyle Rittenhouse in the Second Amendment caucus. And then Kyle Rittenhouse mysteriously tweets later on with the Capitol in the background that this could be his office within the next 5 years. Think about this, folks. Think about it. Think about the fact that the GOP is embracing him. Think about the fact that he is considering a run for public office at some point. And consider the fact that Dave Denton and I called this a while ago. Wake up, America. We ain't done yet. I'll talk to you later.